What's up guys, and thank you for joining me for the next New to Flesh and Blood video. And this one's going to be slightly larger than any other video in the series because it's kind of a pretty important one. It's going through how we actually play the game. Now I'm fully aware there's lots of videos out there that take you through this. This isn't going to teach you anything new if you already know how to play the game, or it probably shouldn't teach you anything new anyway. But if you've never played the game, if you've been kind of dropping into videos or streams here and there and trying to kind of get your head around what's going on, or if you're looking for a new card game to get into, this is going to take you through literally start, middle and end of exactly everything you need to know how to play the game. In this video we're going to be covering stuff like the different cards in Flesh and Blood. We're going to go through action points and then how they relate to the sequencing of play and how a basic turn plays out, and we'll be wrapping it up with a gameplay video at the end as well, which is going to be myself against someone else from my Discord. Now, I will point out all the gameplay in this video, and for some reference stuff in this video, I'm going to be using the Tabletop Simulator digital client. Now, the main reason I'm using that over, say, an actual physical cards with a board, two main reasons. One is because I want to be how easy it is to view, or the viewability is very clear in Tabletop Simulator, and I can blow up cards very, very easily. So new players can get that accessibility of understanding where the card text coming from, what I'm talking about, all on the fly. Whereas on a table or on a mat, sometimes I have to bring the cards up and then bring them down, and then the focus doesn't go there. And if you don't know the artwork on a webcam or on a kind of of the cards, basically, it can be confusing to understand exactly what is going on. Secondly, also, some of the cards, not so much this video, I own all the cards about, but going forwards, when we start breaking down the classes, I don't own all the cards that I want to be speaking about or talk about. So having the Tabletop Simulator client going and using that means I can literally emphasize all of my points, even with cards that I don't own. And just because I don't have access to the cards shouldn't mean you guys get any less of any content on those there anyway. So yeah, that's kind of why we're using the Tabletop Simulator client. So let's just go straight into it really and kick off with the different cards in Flesh and Blood. So there are heroes and weapon cards on that side. There are like 7 different main cards in Flesh and Blood. We're gonna jump into first up, and you can see now on the screen is a hero card and a weapon card. Now, the hero we're looking at is Reiner. We're looking at the young version of Reiner. If you remember my previous video, I spoke about the young and mature. Young has 20 life, mature has 40 life. The young, the one we're looking at now, is used in Blitz decks, which is what we're going to be talking about mainly going forward for now. And the mature one's used in what's called Classic Constructed, or CC if you want to be cool and short as well. So Reiner, you can see, has an ability on the card that says whenever you discard a card with 6 or more attack, the yellow circle with a spear in it is the attack symbol. During your action phase, Intimidate. Now, Intimidate is when you get your opponent not to discard a card, but they place a card face down, kind of outside of their play area, meaning they don't have access to it this turn, but we'll get onto that more as we go. And the other card you can see on the screen is Romping Club. Now, Romping Club is Reiner's base weapon. Now, you can see once per turn attack. The 2 red symbols on that are how much mana, or in the game of Flesh and Blood, we call them resources, that costs. So it will cost you 2 resources to pay for this to attack. Once per turn effect, when you discard a card of 6 or more attack, Romping Club gains +1 until the end of turn. So you can see straight away that on the Brute hero that we're looking at now, and Brute's going to be the first kind of class we're breaking down as well when we go into class breakdowns, and Brute's are being used in the video we're looking at later. 6 is definitely the magic number here. So you can see that every deck has a hero card and also has a weapon card. Now, at the bottom of the Romping Club, you'll see it says Brute Weapon, Club, and then in brackets it says 2H. That means it's a 2-handed weapon. Now, Reiner does have access to another set of weapons, a set of claws, which at the bottom have brackets 1H, meaning they're one-handed weapons. Now, obviously, if you have a one-handed weapon, you're allowed to run 2 of them. When you see the playmat that we were looking at earlier, despite it being a digital playmat because of TTS, you'll see that there is 2 slots basically for weapons. So you can run 2 weapons as long as they're one-handed. At the moment, there are no 4-handed hero creature things in the game, so we don't have to worry about dual-wielding 2-handed weapons. That would be kind of nuts if there was. But anyway, that's the hero and the weapon card, which is, as I said, every deck is built up from. And then you go into we go into our 7 main cards. And if you're wondering about equipment cards, we're getting on some at the end of this section, and I'll explain why when we get there. So the 7 main cards you can see on the screen now are action cards, attack action cards, attack reaction cards, defense reaction cards, instant, an aura, and an item. So if we blow these up first, and we're going to look at the action card first. So these are random cards I've tried to pull out, and I've tried to pull out from different classes just to kind of highlight some of the different mana values or different colors on them, and as well as the kind of just the different synergies you see going on in this game. So the first action card we're looking at is a range action card called Increased Attention. Your next arrow attack this turn gains +2 attack, and defense reactions can't be played from hand this chain link. Go again. There are some very, very key words on this card. Now, first thing I want to point out is down the bottom, we know now that the yellow spear symbol is the power level or the attack power that card is going to do. But this doesn't have one at the bottom, in the bottom left-hand corner that we pointed out in a previous video. But we do know that it gives our next attack +2. Now, that's pretty common of what we come to expect from action cards. Action cards aren't there to do damage. They're to buff next attacks, or they're to buff something else your hero's trying to do. So that's the key thing with actions. They're not kind of putting out damage output right there and then. There's the odd exception here or there when you get to wizard decks and some Runeblade decks. But for the basic rule of thumb, action cards are there to buff something else coming in the future, or buff your next attack action card, which we're now going to look at. So we go across to our next card. You can see at the bottom it says Brute Action. And this time it says Attack at the end. So we now see that yellow symbol is present now down the bottom in the bottom left-hand corner of Swing Fist Think Later. So this is a yellow card. You can see it has the armor down the bottom right, which I didn't point out on the previous one, which you had armor of 2 down the bottom right. It has the mana cost top right in 1, and the pitch value of 2 as well, top left. So attack cards effectively are, they're kind of, as they do what they say they are. They attack. It's as simple as that, really. So Swing Fist Think Later does 3 base attack. But as an addition to play Swing Fist Think Later, discard a random card. Now, if you're thinking doesn't sound too good, but considering it's only doing 3 damage, we go back to what Reinhard does. When you discard a card of 6 or more, you get the Intimidate, and then the weapon gets the buff. You can start seeing now how these cards synergize with their heroes that you're building around. But like I said, the core rule of the attack cards is they're doing attack. Now we go across to our next card, is an attack reaction card. So this will make more sense when we get into the actual sequencing a little bit later in this video. But attack reaction is played after an attack. So the basic rule of thumb, let's say using the cards we've just seen already, you'd play an action card to buff your next attack. You'd then play an attack card. Your opponent then has the option to defend or not defend. Let's say that they choose to defend, and they maybe block with a card for free block. What we can then do, it goes out of the combat phase almost, and goes into what's called a reaction phase. And that's when I can then play an attack reaction. Now this card on screen is a warrior attack reaction, and warriors are pretty much built around this playstyle, that you attack maybe only for free, but your attack ends up being 9 to 10 damage because all of the attack reactions you play. So I would say, in response to your block, I am now playing Out for Blood, and you can see target weapon gains +3 attack damage. So let's say we attack for free, it would now be a 6 attack on the reaction. The reprise ability, that if they've blocked from a card from hand, is actually an additional 4. Sorry, no, your next attack gains +1. It's not an additional 4. Ignore me. I'm reading the card wrong. So it's still at 6 damage. Now, the opponent, if we put the Out to Blood back and bring up the next card, we have a defense reaction card. And this is where our opponent would have the option to play a defense reaction. So Sink Below is the perfect kind of card to explain this. It costs 0 mana to play. Now, this is very important because you can play it straight from hand. You can play any defense reaction card after the defense. So the tricky thing with defense reaction cards is you cannot defend with them. So Sink Below has 2 armor. I can't, in the defense phase, after they initiate an attack, say, I'm going to defend with Sink Below because it's a defense reaction card. It can only be played during that reaction phase. So I would have to say, no blocks, Then they would play the previous card we just saw out for blood to make their attack 6. What I could then do is, in response to your attack reaction out for blood, I'm now going to play my defense reaction, sink below, and block 2 of the damage. Now, it might sound like, that's not much 2 damage because blocks will normally do 3. Correct, but the defense reactions also have additional text to them. So, for example, sink below says, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. So there's a card in your hand that isn't going to kind of let you find much damage next turn. You can go fishing for another card. Put it on the bottom of your deck. Draw another card off the top. If a defense reaction card has a mana cost, because you are playing the defense reaction card, you have to pay its mana cost. If it had a mana cost of 3, and some of them do have mana costs of 3, you would have to pitch cards, which we'll get onto what that means in a minute, which is how you create mana, to pay for that free mana cost. Sink Below doesn't have a mana cost, so you can just play it willy-nilly for completely free. Do not have to worry about creating resources for the card. Now, that's kind of your attack phase, shall we say, rounded up. Going to our next card, which is an instant. We're looking at the Guardian class here. Blessing of Serenity. This is a Guardian instant card. And it says, the next time you would be dealt damage this turn, prevent 1 damage from that source would deal. Now, an instant is the same. It reads exactly as you expect it. You can literally play it at any time. So instants can be popped during combat, they can be popped pre-combat, they can be popped post-combat. And a key thing about instants are they do not use an action point. Again, we're going to go into action points very, very soon. But all you need to know for now is an instant doesn't cost you anything to play apart from its mana cost. Okay? Its mana cost is all you need to worry about when you're playing an instant. You don't need to worry about action points or anything else like that. Now we're going to go on to our next card, which is an Aura card, still in the Guardian class. And Emergent Dominance. So Aura cards are best seen as buffs normally, and buffs that stay on the board until their subtext or their conditions are met. So if we read Emergent Dominance, it's a Guardian action Aura, and it reads as, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy Emergent Dominance, then the next Guardian attack action card you play this turn gains +2 attack and dominate. Now if you're thinking, well, what's the point of playing an Aura card over playing something like an action card that already gives me +2? The benefit is the Aura card is now out of your hand. So the Guardian class we're looking at, for example, is all about building up these auras. Maybe you're playing 2 of these in one turn. And then the next turn, you pop both of them, so that's +4. And then you play an action card from hand that does another +2. So you're already getting +6 on your next Guardian attack action card. And that's what auras are all about. They're not always about buffing next attacks. There are some in Runeblade that let you do arcane damage. There are some that let you prevent damage. There's lots of auras in the new set Monarch, especially with Prism. So auras, all you need to know for now, are cards that just kind of stay on the board unless their conditions met. And the condition of Emergent Dominance is, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy Emergent Dominance. That's when it gets disappeared from the board. There are some that say if you lose life during your turn, then it's destroyed. And then the final card out of the 7 kind of base cards of Flesh and Blood is Energy Potion. Now, Energy Potion, this is a confusing one for people because it says on it, instant, destroy Energy Potion, gain 2 resources. Now, we haven't spoken about action points yet, and we're going to go on to that literally like after we've gone through these cards. But to play Energy Potion, it is not an instant. The card ability is the instant. To play an item, it counts as an action. And the clue here comes down to the bottom of the text. It says generic action item. So any card at the bottom that says defense, like ranger action or brute action or generic action or guardian action, yes, it could say aura, item, attack, anything afterwards. If it says action at the bottom, it takes an action point to play. Now, I know this is going to sound very confusing, but bear with me. Now, the reason that is important is because I would play my energy potion, and that would potentially be my turn. I couldn't use its instant until I actually had something to do again. Or I could use its instant, but I wouldn't be able to do anything with it, if that makes sense. And that will make more sense very, very soon. So that's kind of the 7 base cards. Now, the reason I wanted to go through those 7 base cards before I went on to the equipment cards, or the basic equipment cards, is because the equipment cards are made up with keywords we have just gone through. So these are not any set equipment that I've put together. These are just 4 equipment cards that have different abilities that I can highlight on the screen right now for you. So we have Talismanic Lens, we have Heartened Cross Strap, Goliath Gauntlet, and Snapdragon Scaler. So if we go to the headpiece first, the Talismanic Lens. So I should also point out, every hero does have 4 pieces of armor or equipment. Some are locked to classes. So none of the pieces we're looking at today are locked to classes. These are all generic equipment. So any hero can run these 4 that we're looking at right now. There are some that are locked to classes. There are some that aren't locked to classes. And that's basically on terms of like versatility of equipment. But Talismanic Lens, we can see straight away, the keyword I wanted to point out here was instant. Destroy Talismanic Lens and opt to. Now, equipment is balanced in terms of some of them have very powerful abilities on them. But you'll notice, especially with Talismanic Lens, the ability is very, very good if you're running a deck that relies on consistency from top decking. However, it has 0 defense. So you're never going to be blocking with this card. You only have it there as a kind of passive on board to pop whenever you're ready to do. Now, with it being an instant, you can pop it at any time. Let's say that you played a defense reaction like Sink Below that we saw a minute ago, where it says put a card on the bottom of your deck and then draw a card. You can then pop the instant from Talismanic Lens to opt to then be able to do the to then be able to opt to see if you're going to draw a card you want to off Sink Below. So instant is going to be played at any single time in the game. Now we go on to the next piece of equipment we want to look at, the Heartened Cross Strap. This has an action and it reads, destroy Heartened Cross Strap. The next attack action card you play this turn costs 2 resources less to play. So if it's a 2 cost attack action card, it's actually a free play. Again, it has 0 defense because the ability on it is pretty strong. You're effectively reducing the cost of your cards to be able to maybe put out a really, really big turn. Now notice it says action. That means it would use an action point to use this piece of equipment or to pop this ability. So unless you had a way of refilling it, which we'll get onto in a minute, you wouldn't be able to do so. And then Goliath Gauntlet is the arm piece we're using. And this has another action. So again, you'll be using an action point to play this card, or to pop this card, I should say, because it's already on the board. And this reads, destroy Goliath Gauntlet. The next attack action card with cost 2 or greater you play this turn gains +2 attack. Go again. And the final piece of equipment we're looking at is Snapdragon Scalers. Now this has a different keyword on it. It has attack reaction. So this can be popped after you declare, I'm going to attack. They declare blockers, maybe play an attack reaction. They then say no defense reactions. I could then say, I'm now going to pop my Snapdragon Scalers. I'm going to destroy them. And I'm going to give my target attack action card with cost 1 or less go again. So I'm going to be able to keep that go again going, which we're going to get onto what that means in a very, very small minute. So that's kind of all the cards of Flesh and Blood and what they do. Now, to break down action points. Action points are... This is not the easiest thing to explain to a new player, but once you get your head around it, it makes sense. Trust me. So every player, when you start your turn, you instantly go into what's called the action phase. And everyone is given 1 action point. Now, if I play a card that says action, and it has no other text on there, it doesn't say go again or anything like that, that's the only card I can play. So if I instantly attack with a card that is an attack action card for 7 damage, that's my turn done. That is it. I've spent my 1 action point. Now, we saw on a lot of cards that I spoke about the keyword go again. Now, what go again does, it doesn't give you an additional action point. It's key to know this. What it does do is it refills the most recent action point you used. So let's say I played a card that I popped my Heartened Cross Strap equipment piece that we said, because I wanted to make sure my next card was cheap. I use my action point. It gets drained down to pop that, to destroy that piece of equipment. But it says go again at the end. So that instantly refills my action point. So I can now go and play another action. If it has go again, it will deplete it and then it will refill it to mean I can go again and go again and go again. Once that go again disappears, or it's not on a card, I can't play any more cards. My action points are done, and that's how it is. Now, action points are not mana, or as I refer to in Flesh and Blood, resources. They are a completely different thing. You need action points to make actions. You need resources to be able to pay for those actions. And this will all come a lot more apparent when we jump into a game. I just wanted to make sure I explain this beforehand so people could understand what was going on when we're actually playing the game. So, action, you do get the odd occasion, and I'm going to put a legendary on the screen right now, Scabskin Leathers, which is the Brute legendary equipment piece. Now you can see here, roll a 6-sided dice, and you get action points equal to half of your half of the amount of you roll. So you roll a 6, you get 3 action points. Now this is giving you additional action points. You get 1 action point just for being your turn. If you roll a 6, you've got 4 action points this turn. So if you played a card with go again straight away, it would drain the first action point and then refill it. You wouldn't get 5 action points. You're still at 4 action points. You just refilled it. Once you play a card that has no action or no go again, then you lose an action point. And let's say you play 2 cards that have no go again. You lose 2 action points. You then play a third card that has go again. You will drain that action point and then refill it. And once you depleted those action points, you can't do any more actions. The chances are you're probably going to be running out of cards before you spend all of those action points in a Brute's deck. But that's just that gives you an idea of how action points actually work, because they are a little bit confusing at first. I'm fully aware. And hopefully I've done an okay job of the draining and disappearing, of explaining to you guys exactly how they kind of work. So what we're going to do now is going to go look at the digital board and how it looks. This isn't going to be gameplay yet, and then I'm going to kind of show you how a turn plays out in sequencing, and then we'll jump into gameplay at the end. Sorry this video is going to be slightly longer, but I really wanted to give an in-depth guide to how we actually play Flesh and Blood. So let's jump over to the board right now. Okay, so you can see now, this is how the board is laid out for a game of Flesh and Blood before the game has even started. We're playing Rhinar, and we have Romping Club as our main weapon. And you can see we have our equipment set out over to the side as well. There are slots on a Flesh and Blood playmat for you to place your equipment. We have our helmet, we have our chest piece, we have our gauntlet, and we have our leg piece. Notice the chest piece is a flavoursome or a thematic chest piece that is locked to Brutes. Because we're playing Brutes, we can play this chess piece. So we also have a hand as well. You can see, you can't really see it that well, but at the bottom of the screen, there are 4 cards. They are the cards in our hand. As we looked at last video, if we hover over Rhinar again, you can see the bottom left-hand number 4 means that's how many cards you draw up to at the end of your turn or when you start a game. So we have 4 cards in hand because Rhinar's instinct is 4. So the basic kind of areas that we need to worry about is we have our equipment, which you can see on the screen right now. We have our weapon slots. You can see now. We have our hero. Below our hero, we have our arsenal, which we got onto what that means in the actual gameplay video, shall we say. Then we have our deck. We have our pitch zone, which is next to our deck. We have our graveyard, which is above our pitch zone. And we have our banish zone, which is partly blocked by my big ugly mug. So the main thing for now, I'd say, is don't worry about the banish zone. Banish zones only really come into play with the most recent set. And as a new player, you're not going to be jumping into that set until you've got a basic understanding, really, of the first set, or maybe even the first 2 sets anyway. So that's kind of how the board is laid out. Now, what we would do is we've already drawn our turn. We're going to play first, for example. And the sequencing works quite simply like this. So I declare an action. So if we go down to my hand down here, I can see that these are my cards I've got to play. Now we have an action card here. We have an action card here. We have an action card here. So we've got an attack action card here, an attack action card here, an attack action card here. But this is just an action. And the key word it says down there, guys, go again, meaning I can play this and it uses my resource point and my action point, and then it refills my action point. And this doesn't cost any mana to play. So what I'm going to do is, first sequence is, I'm going to declare an action. So I'm going to play Primeval Bellow over here. I don't need to pay any mana cost because it is a 0 cost card. And it has Go Again. As an additional cost to play Primeval Bellow, discard a random card. Your next brute attack gains +3. Now, the way, if you're playing in paper or IRL, the way you do this is my opponent would shuffle their deck with their hand, face down obviously, and I would just choose a random card and it gets discarded. On TTS, they can't see your hand. They can just randomly go over a card and they can just hit this card here and say, I want to discard this card here. Okay, so they're going to discard Smash Instinct. So Smash Instinct goes into the area here. But we can see it has 6 or more power. Okay, so that would mean this would proc, meaning I get the Intimidate keyword off my hero. You can start seeing again where brutes are going now. And my weapon buffs up as well. We're not going to be doing a full exchange in this short clip here, but you can see now that that's kind of why the 6 attack is very important in brutes. So we now know that this has worked. I've discarded a card. I've got Go Again, so my action point is refilled. And my next brute attack is going to gain +3. Now I want to attack with this card here, my Raging Onslaught. The issue I have with this though is they discarded our only brute attack action card, meaning we're not going to get the +3. So we're going to attack with this card here, Raging Onslaught, but you can see it is a generic action attack card. We can attack with it because to Go Again from the previous card means we still have our action point. So what we're going to do is we are going to declare an attack up here for 6 damage because we don't get the +3 because it's not a brute attack. So we're going to declare this for 6 attack here. But on the top right, you can see that that is the mana cost. We haven't paid any mana for it yet. We need to pay 3 mana. Luckily, we come down here. We can see that Flock of the Feather Walkers is a blue card, meaning in the top left, it has 3 red dots. So we now pitch this card to basically put it back into our deck at the end of the turn. But by sacrificing this card, we're generating that much mana that is represented in the top left of the card. So I'm going to play this into my pitch zone, meaning that I've just pitched for 3, and that 3 is going to be used on Raging Onslaught to attack. If this card costs 2, you can use dice to represent any additional mana, which you'll see in the gameplay there. Now my opponent is going to just say no blocks or anything like that. They would take that 6 damage. If they were to block and I was playing attack reaction, this is kind of the middle part of the game. It could go attack reaction, defense reaction, attack reaction, defense reaction, attack reaction, defense reaction. And it can very much go like a game of tennis, back and forth. However, this has gone through now. So we now have no action points left. You can see in the top right hand of the screen that I'm representing with, our action point is currently empty. The Raging Onslaught didn't have Go Again, so it's used our action point. We can't do anything that has an action. If we were to use this attack reaction from the Snapscale Dragons, it wouldn't do anything because we don't have any actions to play. We don't even have any cards in hand. There's nothing else we can do. So we now move on to the end phase of our turn. And the end phase starts with what we call up here is the combat chain. So we resolve the combat chain, meaning all the cards from the combat chain go into the graveyard. We then resolve the pitch zone. And what we do with the pitch zone is we press, here we do end turn. If you're playing IRL, you put the cards on the bottom of your deck. Here's a very key note that as you get better at the game, it becomes more prevalent, especially if you're playing Classic Constructed. You can put the cards from your pitch zone on the bottom of your deck in any order you choose. So if you have 4 cards for some bonkers reason in your pitch zone, you can put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. So if there's one you really want back before the others, put it at the top, obviously, of the deck when you put it to the bottom of your deck. So we just press end turn in this client here. That's going to put it on the bottom of our deck. Now, the final part of your turn is we draw to our instinct. Now, Rhinar has 4 on his instinct, meaning, guess what? We draw 4 cards. Now, our 4 cards come down the bottom here. Now, once you draw cards, that is it. Now, I had this situation arise once, so I'm sure it will happen again. I had an opponent who wanted to draw cards and then pop an instant. They can do that. However, they are playing the instant on your turn. Or if I draw cards and then say I want to do an instant, I'm not doing the instant on my turn. Once you draw your 4 cards, that is your turn. There is nothing else. Otherwise, you could end up being busted combos in the wizard deck. So I draw 4, my opponent's turn. I could say I'm going to play this instant straight away now if I wanted to, or pop an instant, because instants don't cost action points. That's what I was meaning earlier. They're not actions. Instants are not action cards. They are instant cards. They don't require action points. However, you do still need to pay their mana cost if they have a mana cost. And then it'll be over to my opponent's turn there. So that was basically the basic sequencing of how a turn plays out. It's going to make a lot more sense when you see the gameplay video now. Apologies if this part has gone on a little bit longer. I was aiming to get 20 minutes. It's gone on slightly longer, I'm afraid. But it's really important to know the very core understandings of the game. It isn't a super complex game. But as with any card game, getting your head around how the basic turn plays out is always the most important thing. And I wanted to make sure I covered as many questions that I've seen arise from new players as possible. Okay guys, so we're now into some gameplay, and I've been joined by the wonderful Flash, who's a lovely member of my Discord, someone I play games with regularly. And they are playing, as we can see up here, Katsu, which is a ninja deck, and myself, I am playing Rhinar, which is the Brute list. These are the starter decks available. Unfortunately, in actual physical sealed products, they're extremely expensive because they're limited. So it's not necessarily where I'd recommend you start with them. But anyway, in terms of TTS and the digital client, they're a good place. So they're kind of pre-con decks that you guys can get the idea of. So yeah, to start the game, so we're going to go right from the beginning. We have 2 dice, and then we just roll 2 dice to see who gets the highest roll. So if I'm going to roll first, at the top. So I got a 3, and then now Flash is going to roll. And the winner of the roll gets to choose who goes first. It's not they go first, they choose. So Flash can now choose who is going to go first. I'm assuming he's going to take going first, because going first is an advantage in Flesh and Blood. Okay, so what we do now at the very start, as again, our instinct is 4, so we draw 4 cards. And we can see as well, Flash's instinct is 4. So he's going to draw 4 cards, which we can't see his cards obviously because that would be cheating, but we can see them over there in the client. And then it's going to be Flash to play us out. Move the dice to a side. When he's ready, he can play away. So this is not going to be a full kind of slogging battle match. It's going to be a bit, just give you a basic idea of how turns are structured, guys. So yeah, Flash to play. Yeah, attacking with Surging Strike, which is obviously 5 attack damage. The go again, meaning he refills his action point. And then the Spring or Somersault, which is the 2 mana, so he's paying the 2 cost with the Spring or Somersault. Okay, so currently 5. Now, what a key rule to remember is if you're playing second in Flesh and Blood, on the first turn only, you draw back up to your instinct. So I could exhaust my hand here, for example, and I would still draw 4 at the end of my opponent's turn. That only happens on the first turn if you are playing second. So I don't really want 5 damage to come through. I'm going to play Raging Onslaught opposite to do the figure in the bottom right-hand corner of the card for 3 blocks. So 2 coming over at the moment. So I would say no more blockers. Now Flash would declare if he wants attack reactions. So no attack reactions, and I'm going to say no defense reactions. So I'm going to take 2 damage there. And the go again from the Surging Strike means that it's still Flash's turn. He still has 1 action point available. Yep. So attack on the Kodachi, and you can see they only do 1 damage, these Kodachis. And they're 1 resource to attack. But you see at the bottom, if you have a card in your pitch zone with cost 0, the Kodachi gains go again. And we can see here both of these cards in the pitch zone cost 0. So Kodachi does restore that action point. I'm going to say no blocks. Flash has got no attack reactions, no defense reactions for me. So I take another piece of damage from the Kodachi. And it's still Flash's go because he still has that action point. So you can see he played Fluttered Fist, which would have given him 3 resources. He used 1 of the resources to pay for the first Kodachi, and now he's using another one to play for the second Kodachi. So he still has 1 resource from the Flutter Fist floating over here, and another attack coming through. This one here, I'm going to use a piece of my equipment to block this, and I am going to block this with Iron Rot Helm. We can see my equipment in the bottom right hand corner has one block, and it also has, if you defend with Iron Rot Helm, destroy it when the combat chain closes. So I'm going to block that attack there. No more blocks from me. No attack reactions from Flash. No defense reactions from me. And I believe that is going to be turn. Yeah, he does have go again, so it is still his turn. He still has that action point available with one card in hand. We can see here, so this is a free cost card. Sorry, when I say free cost card, I mean it costs 0 to play. It's attacking for 4. And when you play Scar for a Scar, if you have less life than your opponent, it gains go again. He doesn't have less life, so it's not gaining go again. However, he's out of cards anyway. So you can see the ninjas are very much going wide very, very quickly. Go again, and then go again, and then go again, and then potentially go again. So another 4 damage coming through. Again, like I said, I draw my hand back up at the end of the first turn. So I'm going to use Smash Instinct to block the attack for Scar for a Scar for 3. It is attacking for 4, so it means I still take 1 damage because there are no cards left in Flash's hand, so he's not going to be putting in any attack reactions out. I don't have any defense reactions, so it goes straight through to there. And that is going to wrap up the turn. So now we resolve the combat chain. So all the cards go to the discard area. You'll notice that Flash's pitch area is now empty because those cards have gone to the bottom of his deck. This one resource is useless. It goes over here now. Resources do not carry over between turns. And he didn't use it on his last card because it was a 0 cost card to play. Now, Flash, you can see also drew back up to 4 cards because Katsu's Instinct is 4. And I'm now going to draw 2 cards because, again, the end of the first turn, if you play second, you draw back to your Instinct. So I've now got back up to 4 cards in hand, and it is now my turn. So I'm going to open up with an action card here. So I'm going to play Awakening Bellow, which is the next brute attack action card you play this turn gains +3, Intimidate, and it has to go again. Intimidate means that I choose a random card from Flash's hand, and he has to place it to the side of the game area until the end of his turn. So I'm going to choose this card here, and he's going to flip it over and place it over here. He can't use this card this turn now, and this is what brutes try to do. They try to disrupt your hand while doing big, big damage. Now, I didn't actually pay for this yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pitch the Barraging Beatdown, which you can see at the top left has 3 mana or resources. So that would be 3. I spend the 1 on the Awakening Bellow, so I still have 2 available for my turn. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to attack with Smash Instinct. Now, Smash Instinct is a very big card. It's 7 damage. It's Intimidate as well. It's attacking for 10 because my next brute attack action card you play against +3. It's attacking for 10, but it does cost 3. At the moment, I only have the 2 resources, so I have to pitch my last card as well over here, which would go up to 4. Then I'm going to go down to 1 because I spend the 3 on the Smash Instinct. And I'm attacking, well, it's Intimidate as well. So I'm going to then choose another card. We're going to go for the middle card in Flash's hand. And he's going to, so he now only has 2 cards to block with, and I'm attacking for 10 damage. This is where the brutes kind of get really crazy. Very big and powerful, and also disrupt your opponent's hand. Okay, so Flash is blocking with 4 cards, all in the block phase. So he's got a 2 block. He has another 2 block, then a 1 block from his leg piece, and a 1 block from his helmet piece, blocking for 6 damage and taking 4. Now, this is the big decision you've got to make in Flesh and Blood. It now means that Flash only has 2 cards in his hand because the 2 that are intimidated. So going into his next turn, he has very little damage output because he's only got 2 cards available. He can't swing with the full 4 cards in the hand. So I don't have any action points. I had Go Again off of the Awakening Bellow. I don't have Go Again off Smash Instincts. My action point is now depleted, meaning that that is going to be the end of my turn. So I'm going to resolve these cards and put them into the graveyard. My mana gets depleted, it just disappears. I then put this card at the bottom of my deck. I have no cards in hand, so I draw 4 cards back up to my Instinct, and I'm going to pass the turn now back over to Flash. Okay, so Flash is attacking with 4 damage on the leg tap. It has that go again, so his his action point has replenished itself, and he's paying for it with the blackout kick, which is going to give him 1 pitch. There's no dice coming down here because it costs 1 to play. So he's attacking for 4. I'm going to say, do you know what? I want to keep all cards in my hand to do a big turn next turn. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take the 4 damage. It may be a little bit brave, so I'm going to go 1. So I'm going to say no blocks. There are no attack reactions because Flash has no cards in hand. No defense reactions from me. So we go down to 12 life. That'll be Flash's turn. So he's going to just put the pitch to the bottom of the deck, draw his 4 up to his instinct, and then that turn will come back to myself now. This is where we have the advantage. He didn't do much. He done 4 damage last turn. If we can now do over that 4 damage, we've got the upper hand. So what we're going to do here is we are going to open with Primeval Bellow. So Primeval Bellow, it costs 0 mana to play, and it says, as an additional cost to play Primeval Bellow, discard a random card. Your next brute attack this turn gains +3, go again. So now Flash is going to choose any card in our hand. If you're playing IRL, you would shuffle your hand, hold it out to your opponent, and they would choose a random card. But Flash is going to just tap on any card in our hand, choose which one we want to discard. He obviously can't see our cards. So we now discard Wrecker Romp. Now, Wrecker Romp is, you can see in the bottom left, 8 attack damage. And if Reiner says, when you discard a card with 6 or more attack damage during your action phase, Intimidate. This is our action phase. So we are going to choose this card in Flash's hand, and he's going to place that card to the side. He can't use it this turn. So now what we need to do is we need to choose what one of these cards we want to attack with. We have the Pack Hunt, or we have the Savage Swing. Now we can't play Savage Swing because it says, as an additional cost to play Savage Swing, discard a random card. Well, we could play it, but then it costs 1 to play, and we'd have to pitch the Pack Hunt, meaning we wouldn't have any cards to discard. And you have to meet all conditions on the card, including discard the card, to be able to play the card. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack with Pack Hunt. Now that costs 2, so we're going to pitch the Savage Swing, which very conveniently has the 2 resources on there as well. And now Pack Hunt is swinging for 9. We have the 3 off of the Primeval Bellow, as well as the 6, obviously, from this, and it is also intimidating. So I'm going to choose this card from Flash's hand, and Flash is going to place that to the side of the board, and he only has 2 cards again with another 9 attack, another 9 attack coming from the Brutes. Okay, so you can see that Flash is blocked with a Whelming Gust Wave for 3, and he's choosing to take the other 6 damage. So Flash is going to be down to 10 life. Now, once again, Primeval Bellow had Go Again, which allowed us to play the Pack Hunt, but Pack Hunt doesn't have Go Again. So we've lost our turn to play. We have no more action points. We can still play an instant, because remember, instants don't cost action points, but anything with an action we can't play. So that would be our turn. We resolve the attack chain. We place cards into our graveyard. We place these cards onto the bottom of our deck. And then no cards in our hand. We draw up to our instinct, which is again 4. And then that is now back over to Flash. We can see the slight advantage because we're on 12 and they're on 10, and we're both after 2 turns. So we've outswung Flash so far. So Flash is using an equipment. We spoke about this equipment earlier in the video, the Heartened Cross Strap. So his action uses the action point. He's destroyed it, but it costs 2 less to play on your next attack action card. But again, Go Again gives that action point back to play the Surging Strike, which costs 2. Attacking for 5, and again, keyword, Go Again. So he gets that action point back. We don't want this 5 damage to come through because it's quite a lot. And he has Go Again. And if we look into his hand, he still has 2 cards available to play for these Kodachis. And they might only be doing 1 damage, but they kind of chip away like little needle damage, and they end up getting rather irritating, we could say. So what we are going to do is we're going to block 3 of the damage with our Raging Onslaught, and we're going to take, or we're going to say no more blocks. So no attack reactions, no defense reactions for myself. The 2 damage comes over, so we lose 2 life. It's still Flash's turn because he has the Go Again keyword on the Surging Strike. So the leg tap comes through, costs 1 to play. The pitching over here, you can see top left is the 2 resource points, and then the 1 resource point floating over still remaining. And again, the keyword go again, meaning that there's more damage to come potentially after this turn. Another free attack. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to block with the Iron Rot Gauntlet, and we're also going to block with the Barkbone Strapping. Now the reason I want to highlight this card is it says at the bottom Battle Worn. So if you defend with Barkbone Strapping, put a -1 counter on it when the combat chain closes. So it's not destroyed. I can still use its ability later on, but I can't use it to block. So I'm going to block for 2 damage here, and no more defenders, no attack reactions from Flash, no defense reactions from myself. So I take 1 damage here. And they do have 1 resource left, 1 card in hand. No, sorry, no cards in hand still, but they do have go again because the cards are giving them that action point back. Okay, so the last resource point over here is being used on Kodachi, which is attacking me for 1 damage. I'm currently on 9 health, so what we're going to do is we are going to be brave and we're going to take that 1 damage down. So we're going to go down to 8 life. There are no attack reactions because, again, Flash has no cards in hand. I don't have any defense reactions I want to play, so I'm down to 8 life. And that's going to resolve this turn. Now, the Barkbone Strapping comes back over here, and there's several ways you can do it. If you're playing IRL, you can just tap it to say that it's been destroyed. Or if you're playing in TTS, you can put a counter onto it to say that it's been destroyed. It's entirely up to you. Imagine we're playing in paper, so I'm going to tap it to say that it's been destroyed, but I can still use its ability if I choose to. And then these go into my graveyard. Okay, so to turn this back over to me, and we have 3 cards to do something with. So what we're going to do now is we are going to use the ability on Barkbone Strapping. It's an instant, so it doesn't cost any action points to play. We're going to destroy the Barkbone Strapping, roll a 6-sided dice, and we're going to gain resources equal to the half the number rolled, rounded down. So destroy this card here means it goes straight into our graveyard. We take a dice. I'm going to give it a good roll. And it's going to give us a 1. Meaning we don't get a single resource point from this. That sucks, doesn't it? Because it's half rounded down, so we don't get anything. That is it. Boom. No luck from this card here, which is sad. So we now need to actually pay for our cards because that didn't work out for us whatsoever. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play Awakening Bellow. Awakening Bellow. The next brute attack action card you play this turn gains +1. Intimidate. Go again. I need to pay for it, so I'm going to pitch the Springboard Somersault card over here, which gives me 2 pitch. So it will mean I will have 1 pitch left because I'm paying 1 on the Awakening Bellow. So we're going to Intimidate Flash, and we're going to choose this card here to put this card to the side under the Intimidate keyword. Now, again, it says go again at the bottom, so it's our turn again. Now, what we're going to do is, I just realized I have made a mistake because we can't actually play this card because it's we need to discard a random card and we can't meet its criteria. So what we have to do is we're going to have to attack with our club because we want to still do some kind of damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack with our club. But you can see next to it, once per turn action, it has 2 resources. We only have 1 at the moment. So I'm going to say we're going to attack with our club. We don't get the extra 1 damage because we haven't discarded a card of 6 or more attack. But I'm going to then use the Savage Feast over here to create the additional mana. And then we're going to spend that 2 resources or mana on the Romping Club. So Romping Club is attacking for 4 damage. For 4 damage because we made an awful mistake in terms of Awakening Bellows. Attack action card you play this turn is +1. This isn't an attack action card, it's a brute weapon. So this was a wasted play here, and we're attacking for 4 over here. Okay, so it's taking 4 damage, down to 6 life there. Now that resolves. The weapon does not go into the discard pile or into the graveyard. It goes back next to our hero. This comes over here. We had a really messy turn there. So we end our turn first to put the cards on the bottom, and then we press 4 to draw 4 up the top. Now it's getting to clutch time. So back over to Flash, who's currently on 6 life. So pitching 3 over here for Flash. And we can see that this is a 0-cost card. And it's got the 3 resources, meaning that the Kodachi is going to gain Go again because the keyword on, or the text on Kodachi. So attacking for 1, and he spent one of the resources to play the Kodachi. So we are going to say, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to take that 1 damage, or I'm going to say no blockers, no attack reactions, no defense reactions, and we're going to take that 1 damage there. Okay, so we've got another damage coming through now as well. I'm going to say, so we've got 1 resource left, 3 cards in hand. There's probably going to be a big attack coming at some point. So I'm going to say no blockers again. No attack reactions from Flash, no defense reactions from myself. We're down to 6 life. And it's still Flash's go, because that go again from the Kodachi means it restores his action point. Okay, now I've got a Head Jab coming in, which is a 0 cost card. It's only attacking for 1, but we can see this 1 damage does keep adding up, especially in the Ninja's deck. So there's still 1 resource point left, still 2 cards in hand, so I still feel like there's something bigger to come. So I'm going to again be brave and say no defenders. There's no attack reactions from Flash. No defense reactions from myself, so I'm down to 5 life. And I've got another Head Jab coming here. This one's a red Head Jab, meaning it's in the 3 damage, but only pitches for 1 if you choose to pitch it. Now I need to block this, because my life is getting incredibly low. There is still 1 card in hand, and he still has 1 resource available. So I need to make sure I'm blocking this, otherwise it could be on 2 life, and it might end up doing too much damage to me. So I need to choose something from my hand to block with. I'm going to choose Awakening Bellow from my hand, and I'm going to play it opposite the Head Jab and block all 3 damage from the Head Jab. Well, I'm going to say no. Sorry, that's my defenders. There's no attack reactions from Flash, no defense reactions from myself, so it all gets blocked. And then we can see the final attack coming in now, which this is a Whelming Gust Wave. The combo, it literally is a case of, if it plays, it tells you exactly what you need to do. If Surging Strike was the last attack this combat chain, it wasn't. Head Jab was, so we don't need to worry about that text there. It's just 3 damage coming through, and go again if it hits draw a card. Oh, sorry, no, that's only the combo. So it's just 3 damage coming through. No more cards in hand, so he can't spend this additional resource point anywhere. He's attacked with everything he's got to attack with. We do have a attack reaction over here, which we need to be careful of. The Strawberry Scales, and card attack gets +1. So the Whelming Gust Wave could get the +1. So I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to block with the Awakening Bellows again over here and say no more blocks. So Flash is going to break to use the attack reaction. So he's going to destroy his Breaking Scales to give it the +1. Meaning it's now attacking for 4. And we're going to take 1 damage off that because we have no defense reactions to play. So we're now down to 4 life. But Flash done a really good job then of exhausting our hand out pretty well. Okay, and that is our turn. So then now we resolve it all. Flash obviously draw back up to 4 because that's his instinct. He's now in a very good position because 4 damage against ninjas is very easy to do because you can see how wide they're going. And if they're attacking for 1 and forcing a block of 3 out of my hand, that can be pretty frustrating to play against. So what we're going to do now is we only have 2 cards in hand and our resources are very, very limited. One of them is quite an expensive card to play and the other one's a little bit cheaper, but we can't really pay for either of them. So what we're going to do is we are going to put this card into what's called our arsenal. We've not spoken about our arsenal yet, but our arsenal is this area just here below our hero. So we're going to flip the card over and place it into our arsenal. Now what that means is you can only do this at the end of your turn. Now we're not going to play any cards, so we've already jumped to the end of our turn. But it means next turn, I can play this card from my arsenal. I still have to pay its resource cost. I can't pitch from my arsenal. I have to pay its resource cost to play it from my arsenal. We still have 1 card in hand, so we're now going to just draw 3 cards, because that's going to draw up to our instinct of 4. And we're going to pass this turn straight back to Flash, hoping that he has very little to do against us in terms of he doesn't have the cards to really cause us issues. Okay, so he's pitching the 3 pitch over here, meaning that he still has 2 left, because he's paying the 1 for the Kodachi, and it costs 0 cost card, meaning that the Kodachi is going to gain the go again. So we've got to be very careful now. I'm going to say no blocks. There's no attack reactions from Flash, so I'm going to just take the 1 damage, and we're down to 3. Attacking with another 1 down here. We need to start being careful. So what we're going to do here is we are going to actually take this 1 damage. We're going to hope there isn't an attack reaction coming, because we're going to say no blocks. No attack reactions, no defense reactions. We're now down to 2 life. Okay, so now we've got another card coming here. It doesn't have go again, so we don't need to worry about any additional attacks coming afterwards. He spent his 1 resource, and it's attacking for 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block with Savage Swing up here, which you can see is blocking for 3 because the bottom right-hand number with the shield. And we're going to take, we're going to say no more blocks. No attack reactions. No defense reactions. So we're now down to 1 life. It's going to get pretty tense. And that is turn because the blackout kick doesn't have go again, meaning it drained Flash's action points, so he can't play again. And that's going to resolve the combat chain and pass the turn back over to myself. Oh, sorry. Yep. So Flash is going to place a card into his arsenal, and then that will now resolve his turn. So he chooses to play a card in his arsenal. Again, you can only play into your arsenal at the end of your turn. So we'll go action phase, then arsenal, then end phase B, meaning where you resolve your pitch zone and draw your 4 cards, or whatever your instinct is. So, okay, we need to do some damage now. We have to get this damage done as quick as we possibly can. So, what we're going to do is we are going to try and make this work. I don't know how we're going to make it work. Okay, so we will... Okay, so we're going to attack with Savage Swing, which costs 1 mana. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pay for it with Primeval Bellow. So Primeval Bellow has 2 floating mana left because it's got the pitches for 3. But then we've spent 1 on the Savage Swing. So as an additional cost to play Savage Swing, discard a random card. So we're going to discard Wrecker Romp from over here. And Wrecker Romp has 8 damage, meaning that we get the Intimidate off of our leader ability, Reiner. So we're going to choose this card to Intimidate with Flash. Okay, blocking for 3 and 5 overall. Okay, blocking for 5, and then he'll be taking the 2 damage, putting him down to 4 because there was no attack reaction to myself. Now, well, I am going to attack reaction because I'm going to pop my Snapdragon Scalers, which is destroy Snapdragon Scalers, target attack action card with cost 1 or less gains go again. So I'm going to destroy these here, putting them into I'll play them into the combat chain so we know what I've done. Which means my Savage Swing now gains go again. Now I have 2 resources left. I'm going to spend my last 2 resources attacking with my Romping Club. And it says, once per turn effect, when you discard a card with 6 or more attack, Romping Club gains +1. Now we discarded the Wrecker Romp, meaning that this is attacking for 5 damage to Flash. So we've got 5 damage coming to Flash. He'll need to block this from his hand. Okay, there we go. So he's blocking it for 2. Well, no attack reactions, no defense reactions. So Flash is down to 1, and I am on 1 as well. So it is literally a case of who's going to win. However, Flash's hand is exhausted. He only has his... Well, actually, no, he's got 1 left from the Intimidate, and he has 1 in his arsenal. So he's very limited on what he can do now for this game. We're going to place these over here, and I have no cards left in hand. So we end turn to put our pitch zone back onto the bottom of our deck, and we're going to draw 4 and pass the turn back over to Flash. And I'm pretty sure someone's going to win it in the next turn. Okay, so pitching for 3 here to attack with the Kodachi for 1. I have to block this, otherwise I am dead. So we are going to block with the Flock of the Feather Walkers for 3. No more blocks to pay for that. Okay, so we are now going to block with the Breakneck Battery. So you can play this from his arsenal. It doesn't cost anything to play, but again, because this costs 0 in his pitch zone, the Kodachi's gain go again as a tech. So he's now attacking for 2. I have to block this again. So we are going to block down here for 3, meaning that none of the damage comes through and we end up staying alive. And that will be turn. That will resolve out. The 1 mana disappears. All these go into our graveyard. And we have very limited resources to attack with, meaning that Flash is probably going to have a good advantage next turn because they're going to have a good hand to come at us again and go very wide, as the ninjas like to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up with all we can do, and we're going to attack with Smash Instinct from our arsenal, which is a 7 attack card. It's Intimidate, and we're going to pay for it with the one card that is in our hand. So this gives us free resources. This spends the free resources to play this. We're going to choose this card in Flash's hand to for him to intimidate, and we're attacking Flash for 7 damage. And there we go. So we're blocking for 2, we're blocking for another 2, that's 4, and we're blocking for the total of 7. But it has pretty much exhausted Flash's hand. He has 1 card left over there, and that's going to end this turn because we can't do anything else. And my turn there, and I will draw back up to 4 cards. Okay, so Flash is attacking straight off with the Flutter Fist. It doesn't have go again, but it doesn't need it. It doesn't cost anything to play, so we're going to attack with it straight away. This 4 damage is going to be very irritating, I suppose, for us because we have to block it. There's no way around it. We have to block this attack. So that's our 6 block. No damage comes through, and that's going to be the end of the turn. Attack straight away with Wrecker Romp. As an additional cost to play Wrecker Romp. I can't attack with Wrecker Romp. I made a mistake there because I can't discard a card because I need to pay for Wrecker Romp with this card in my hand now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a card into our arsenal, and we're going to draw 3 cards to go back up to our instinct, and then pass the turn back over to Flash, which is now going to put us on the back foot. Okay, so pitching the blue card, giving 3 resources, attack with the Kadachi. I have to block. There is no 2 ways around it. I have to block. And you can see I'm in a big trouble because 2 cards in my hand don't have any block value. So we're going to throw out the Savage Swing first because we have to block that. So there are no more blockers, no attack reactions. Okay, so no attack reactions. And yeah, that's the first one done. Go again over here. So another attack. We have to block with this. So again, the only thing we have block with is going to be our Smash Instinct here, which is going to block all of this. 1 more attack from Flash though, and that is game. We are going to be dead. And there we go. And there it comes, is do Rising Knee Thrust, which is a combo card. And it's going to come through for 3 damage. So we can see the 2 cards we have in the hand. The Sigil of Solace is an instant, so we could play this theoretically to gain 1 life. But this is attacking for 3 damage. We only have 1 life anyway, so it wouldn't help us out. And then the Time Snap Potion has no defense as well. So we've been caught out there, so our life would now go down to -2. And that would be game to Flash. Well, thank you very much for stopping by and checking out the How to Play Flesh and Blood video. Apologies, it was a pretty beastie video in the end. I was tempted to split up into 2 parts, but I kind of didn't want people to find the video and not find the other part. So that's kind of, it's a mammoth video. Apologies for that. But I wanted to do a kind of a more in-depth guide rather than hey, here's how to play the game in 10 minutes. Because from my experience of teaching people to play the game and explaining the game to people, there's lots of these little kind of intricate questions that pop up. And I wanted to try and address them as much as possible. The idea being that you can watch this hour video and that's it. You pretty much you're ready to run, you're ready to go. Now the next videos I'm going to be working on for the New to Flesh and Blood series is going to be videos based around the classes. We're going to be looking at brutes first. And as you saw from the gameplay video, I'm not the best at playing brutes. I've not played them much at all. But we're breaking down brutes. We're going to be looking at key cards that you want to be finding if you want to play brutes, roughly how they play, and kind of basic deck building rules for them as well. We'll be doing that for every single class, kind of a real in-depth deep dive of the class, how to play the class, cards you'll need for them as well. Those videos won't be nearly as long as this. They'll be back to like the 20-minute mark. But anyway, I should stop this video now because it's getting on too long. So a big thank you for stopping by, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions about Flesh and Blood, then let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely get back to you and answer them as best as I can. Also, if you've got any kind of more advanced rule questions, by all means ask them and I'll answer them down below. If not, I can definitely find the answer out for you if I don't know them. But anyway, take care, have a great day, morning, evening, whatever it is where you guys are. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.